to your second lab module recorded by your awesome TA. So in this lab, we are going to cover two modules in Python, the input and output module and the OS module. In the last section of the lab, you will see how we can convert files with different types to a pandas data frame. In between these sections, I have added some materials about working with JSON files. So by the end of this lab, you will have a better understanding of how to work with file-like objects, how to take input from users, and how to convert flat files into pandas data frames so you can do complex data analysis using that data. Keeping that in mind, let's go into our first section. So a quick note before starting this section. So you may only use some of those materials in this course, but it is always a good idea to take a look at them so you will know where to find when you need them. All right, let's begin. First, read keyboard input. So the secret here is the input function, which takes a string of instructions to ask for user input. So when you run this chunk, users will type in what's asked, and the response will be stored in the variable input string. I will type in ha ha ha. And so like right now, the string ha 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 has been stored into the input string. You can use it later. So this is how you can take and store user input using the input function. All right, moving on. Next, open and close files. So what this chunk of code does was gain access to an existing file or create a file with an access mode, which will allows you to write to the file. You will specify the mode here. Over here we have WB, and you can print out some details of the file, such as the name of the file and the status of the file, whether the file is closed or not, and also the mode of the file. You can also print out the content of the file, but in this case, it actually creates a new empty file for us. And because it is new and empty, we will not print the content here. Well, it won't have any, but we are going to do this later. So let's see. Assume you've done with the file and you want to do something else. Let me just run this very quickly. And you're gonna have to close the file. Well, you may ask why. First off, you don't want to leave too many files open in your program, and it will just make more space in the RAM and slow down your program. The other thing is that there is a garbage collector, and in theory, your file can be auto-closed, but not always. So to save yourself some time on debugging and avoid being a sloppy programmer, just close it. Or there's a better way to do it, and I will tell you later. So let me just close my file. And moving on, we are going to add some text into our file. Right now the file is empty. Let me run this first. Alright, so the first step is to open the file with the append mode, which allows you to add new content after the existing contents in the file, if it has any. If you use the write mode, which is a single letter R, it will probably overwrite the existing content. So use the append mode here. Second step is to type in new content in the write function. A quick note here, the \n represents a new line in Python. Alright, so last step, remember to close the file. So the next piece of code, how you is gonna read the contents within this file and print to the console. So over here, and then it's gonna close the file. Not much to see there. Alright, so let's move on. Here comes a better way to work with files safely using Context Manager. So no need to use the close function anymore. You can do all you want within this chunk of code after this. And your file will be closed for you, so you don't have to worry about that. You can still access the variables you assign inside this section later on in your code. So in this case, we assign a variable named name, and you can still access this variable after the closure of your file, because the contents has been stored in this variable, so it won't affect the values after closing the file. All right, let's move on to our next section. Let me just run this very quickly. Okay, so you will encounter JSON files later on in this course when working with Twitter data. I have created a very simple JSON file called kit, and I will quickly show you the structure of a JSON file looks like. Okay, my friend over here. So here you can see this file looks a lot like a Python dictionary, which has key value pairs. And in our kids file, particularly, we have a key named children, and the value for the children key is actually a list. You can see this. And within the list, there are 3 pieces of information I made up for 3 children, hopefully born in the future. We have information of their name, ID, age, and who their parents are. They are all stored as a key value pair. And we will talk about JSON files in greater details when we get to the Twitter dataset. And for now, let's just keep it short and just run the code yourself to see how it works. So I'm going to run here, and you can see that it opens the JSON files and convert it to a Python object. And if you print the type, it's gonna tell you it's a dictionary. And then it's gonna, literally through the values in this key under this key children, and it's gonna print out the ID, name, age, parents called by their key, and it's gonna print out the corresponding value. And the last piece of code here is actually takes what was stored in the object obj variable and convert it back to a new JSON file. So what this whole chunk of code does was first off opening the kids JSON and convert it to a Python object, print out the value, and convert it back to a new JSON file. All right, just show you so you can see. Here is the wait, where is did I run this? Did I run it? Okay, new text JSON. Yeah, this one is the JSON file we created over here. Okay, so that was the end of part 1. Okay, so let's start part 2. This section is optional, so skip this if you wish, but I will recommend you to stay. And I will introduce some basic functions in the OS module. So this module allows you to interact with the operation systems in various ways. I will go through them one by one, should be very quickly, so just bear with me. Okay, so first off, we just need to import it or into install anything. It is built in. So first, remember we created our text.txt before, which is this one we created. And if you run this code, it's gonna change the name to text2.txt. So I just ran it and go back to check. See, it changed to text2.txt. Moving on next. Let's see. We don't want this. Its usefulness. It's okay. So it's not useful. So we're gonna run this and see, it's gone. All right. So moving on, we want to create a new directory. Just like means create a new folder. So let's run this code. We are expecting a new folder called test, and let's see. Yeah, it's there. All right, so right now our current working directory is in this web analytics TAFO 2020 folder, and this folder is actually located on my desktop. And if I want to work with some files on my desktop, I gotta first change my directory to desktop. So I run this, And how do I know if my directory was changed by running this code? If I run this, it's gonna tell me the current directory now is on desktop. Okay, so right now we are working on the desktop. And if I want to go back to our web analytics folder, we can change directory to our web analytics folder. All right, so that was quick. Here it comes to the last section of the lab. You will definitely use these. I will just tell you that. So stay focused. We are almost done. And in this section, we will utilize the pandas package to convert various types of files to pandas data frame. I will quickly show you one example of each. So the pandas data frame is very important for us to perform data manipulation analysis. So this package, we're gonna use it frequently. So remember, this is our best buddy. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly show you one example of each. So, all right, so remember before we didn't specify the path to the file, we only specified the name of the file. So you can see before, we just directly type in the file name. It is because all the files are stored in this folder, but right now we change our directory. So when you are working with your file, you need to make sure you specify the correct path to your file. Otherwise, it's gonna throw you errors. So let's try this. All right, successful. We convert a CSV file to pandas data frame. You can see it's well organized. And next example is working with a text file. So it is different than the CSV file. CSV file we know is comma separated. We know they are separated by commas, but TXT, well, not always the case. It can be separated by tab and also can be separated by comma, but you're gonna have to evaluate yourself. So in this case, our file is actually separated by tab. You can see has tab in between each record, and over here, besides specify the path, and we also need to specify how the file is separated. So we need to specify, in this case it's a tab, and we don't have any header in the file. You can see we don't have any header, and header is none. And I assigned each record, each column a name specified over here. So this is the data frame we created using this one line of code. So you can see from this to this. Moving on to JSON files. All right, so also specify the path, and this parameter orient. Orient takes the indication of the expected JSON string format. In our case, it's actually a list like. I will show you what is a list like. So we have one major key value pair, and the value was stored in a list. So this is what it means by list like. And see, this parameter actually you can change it to if your file is a list like just like ours, you're gonna change it to records. If it's like this structure, you're gonna change to index. Just find this, use this to when you are working with JSON files. All right, let me just run this. You can see, oh, it is not what we would expect. You can see all the records are still, put in together, and they are not organized properly. So now we can use this pandas JSON package using this JSON normalize function, specify the highest level of the key, and it's gonna organize this file for you. Oh, key, no JSON. Oh, I forgot to specify the file name because our current working directory is on desktop. So we have to go one layer deeper. All right, this time is gonna work. All right, so how beautiful. All right, last one. To import an Excel file. Let's just run this code quickly to see. So it's just the same information I put, the same thing. I'm gonna show you how the Excel file looks like. Come on, open. Okay, so it just looks like this, and it can just like take it and organize it for us. All right, great. So that's the end of this lab. Congratulations. Here are some resources I found useful. So go through them if you want to, be a Python expert. And I will see you in the next lab.